Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled Board of Directors meeting for Marin Municipal Water District. Today is Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. Terry, if I could please have a roll call.
Good evening, Director Larry Russell,
Here.
Vice President Jed Smith,
Here.
Director Ranjiv Kush,
Here.
and President Matt Sampson.
Here.
Currently, and will not be here, is Director Diana Mayer.
Do we have any public comment on our agenda this evening?
There are none.
Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Here we have a first and a second. Roll call.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Vice President Smith,
Aye.
Director Kush,
Aye.
President Sampson.
Yes. Public comment on non-agenda matters.
Yes, Phil Sauter, please.
Thank you.
Good evening. At the September 23rd Planning Committee meeting, staff gave an update on the Water Efficiency Master Plan, which included results so far, a top-line look at customer segments, and specific goals for the future. While some of the current results were below our objectives and our goals are aspirational, we're giving ourselves targets that will lead to the programs and budgets required to achieve them and to help analyze the programs that have proved successful and improve the ones that fall a little short. We're bringing our assumptions and the consumer segmentation data on which they're based into the daylight where they can be discussed and optimized for improved results. And I thank the committee and staff for providing that information. 2 months ago at the July 22nd Planning Committee meeting, we agreed to bring the super user data to the full board, along with data on commercial, institutional, and irrigation customers who account for 24% of our water use. The September 23rd Planning Committee review of the 2025 Master Plan would also benefit from discussion by the full board and the public. I ask that these items be brought forward as soon as possible. I believe we're currently giving irrigation customers the opportunity to get lower rates, and that Tier 4 users are also able to qualify for lower tiers under some conditions. It would be good to have these programs presented to the board and see if financial breaks for heavy users should be modified or discontinued like the old summer heavy user discount. Even as we enjoy the inch of rains we've received so far this year, I keep thinking about the next drought, maybe 5 years from now. And I'm hoping we're in a position where most customers have already made the changes necessary to extend our water supply by another 4 to 6 months. That would be an accomplishment, in my opinion, every bit as valuable as other sources of supply under evaluation. Water supply and water efficiency are not either or sources of water security. I think we need both. So once again, I'll ask that a combination of the Planning Committee presentations from July 22nd and September 23rd, along with usage data from industrial, commercial, and irrigation customers, be brought before the full board and public as soon as there's room on the agenda. Thank you, and special thanks to Director Russell for leading those really informative Planning Committee meetings.
Thank you, Phil. Miss Marilyn Price, please, and can you please speak up into the mic?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Last night I listened to a David Roberts podcast entitled, "Could We Get Hyperscalers to Buy Heat Pumps for Households?" in a conversation with someone from Rewiring America and the Chief Vice President of Corporate Affairs and Chief Sustainability Officer at Pacific Gas and Electric. They talked about a new proposal for Rewiring America to help solve the fact that data centers are creating a grid crunch. Their proposal is to have data centers fund household electrification to free up the grid capacity they desperately need. Now, this may not seem relevant to increasing our water supply in Marin, but to me, an interesting part of the podcast was when they talked about how to get customers to accept what the data centers would be offering. They addressed the challenges involved in engaging customers and outline their strategies for effectively communicating the value of this new proposal. This reminded me of the Marin's water problem and got me considering how we might encourage residents to adopt more efficient water use at home. Perhaps MMWD wants to explore the different ways that are being piloted and worked in other parts of the world, including reaching out to PG&E to communicate most effectively with customers to get to change their ways. I do notice that PG&E, in the emails I received from them, they have emails that come directly related to you and how you can save energy, and they really are trying to reach out more directly to customers. And if you want to reach out to the woman at PG&E, her name is Carla Peterman. And as I said, she's the Executive Vice President, Corporate Affairs, and Chief Sustainability Office at Pacific Gas and Electric. Seemed quite knowledgeable, and her heart seemed to be in the right place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. There are no further speakers.
Thank you. Next time, we're going to be Director and General Manager's announcements. Mr. Celia, do you have anything for us this evening?
Nothing tonight.
Director Smith.
Needs to be comments on items not on the agenda. Is that an announcement?
Non-committee.
Non-committee, yeah. I would just like to reiterate what Phil just mentioned. We did have a first and a second to have our team put forward a more detailed understanding of the heavy water users. And it sounds like the team has done some of that work but didn't present it. So I think I'd like to maybe revisit that and bring it back. It was I think, approved by this board. And I think it's really important for us to understand how we are doing over time in terms of reducing some of the heaviest water users in our district. But it was a great presentation. I think it could have done a little bit more on a view of AMI and the timeline around AMI and how it's being implemented. And so maybe another update there, because that is the best conservation effort that we have. So those are two items that I'd love to have come back if possible, please.
Thank you. Director Kush.
Yeah, I have a couple of items for today. The first is I was just elected to the vice chair position of the Association of California Water Agencies, or ACWA's Region 1 board, for a 2-year term, 2026 and 2027. Region 1 covers the North Coast counties from Marin up to Del Norte and Siskiyou counties. And representatives from member agencies in the region elect board members every 2 years. David Rabbit, a Sonoma Water Board member, was elected to the chair position. There are also 3 other members of the Region 1 board, and the chair and vice chair also serve on ACWA's central board. So I really want to thank my fellow board members for supporting my nomination to the Region 1 board, and I'm looking forward to representing our district and the region in shaping ACWA's priorities and activities. The second item is Director Russell and I attended the WEFTEC conference in Chicago last week. Larry, I'll make a few comments and you can tell me if I'm capturing what you saw. It's probably the single largest water sector convening in the world. I think that was my impression. There were about 20,000 participants and over 1,000 vendors. So it definitely takes a lot of focus and attention. The content is also very broad. It ranges from, academics, sessions run by university researchers, to very practical. With, I would say, a bit probably a skew towards wastewater treatment science and technologies. On the technical innovation side, I think the topic that stood out for me was managing contamination from PFAS chemicals, or forever chemicals. Really big topic. I think there's a lot of, there was a big regulatory push to start to address PFAS contamination. That seems to be now a little bit confused, but nevertheless, I saw multiple startup companies offering solutions for either destroying or removing PFAS. Be interesting to see which one of those, makes it. But then also, wanted to note that fortunately, PFAS contamination is not an issue currently in our water supplies. But that was on sort of the technology side. There was one other topic, and I think this was the topic that I would argue got the most visibility at the conference: artificial intelligence. The Water Environment Federation, or WEF, which runs the conference, is now collaborating with Amazon, a consulting group called Global Water Intelligence in the University of Pennsylvania, and a new initiative called the Water AI Nexus. And that initiative probably had top billing at the conference. Lots of sessions and debates on the role of AI, but a little less detail on what this initiative actually seeks to accomplish going forward. I think just 2 points on AI itself and what, I heard a lot about at the conference. I think in quite a few cases, there's some rebranding going on where existing statistical methods for data management, pattern recognition, predictive modeling are now kind of being called AI. There were things that, we have been doing in our work, for some time. Now they kind of are being resold as AI. But I don't think that means we should dismiss all these advances in data analysis methods, whether they're called AI or not. For applications, leak detection, infrastructure assessments and maintenance, water treatment, we're going to see continued, I think, growth of these types of AI tools. But the second area, which I thought was more interesting, is the development now of AI agents for the water sector. There's a lot of conversation about this. My understanding is that, these are really possible because of the large language models like ChatGPT, and AI agents are being developed and trained for specific activities, and they can then operate independently to execute multi-step workflows, collaborate with other systems, automate complex procedures, even learn and make decisions as conditions and parameters change. So I think we're going to see areas where these agents start to become more available. Probably engineering, planning, capital improvement planning might be areas where they start to first gain traction and then move on from there to maybe actual physical operations. I don't know. To summarize, I think a lot of participants probably left with some feeling of FOMO around AI, fear of missing out. But I don't know if I'm one of them, but I really think it makes sense to, and I think we did discuss this at a previous board meeting, to start to include a topic around AI. What are our priorities? What should we be evaluating with respect to AI applications? Include a topic on this in our strategic plan going forward and maybe one of our work plans. So, Paul, I do think that's something we should flag for the next iteration of our strategic plan. That's it from me, Larry. I don't know what.
I think you captured a good deal of what was going on. I see it perhaps a little differently. I saw it more of a Me Too approach, especially from the consultants. They were all jumping on the bandwagon saying, we're your guys, which I've seen over and over again. I think the more interesting, at least from my viewpoint, about PFAS is that it has forced a blending of the water and wastewater vendors that I've never seen before. There were at least a half a dozen large companies that I've never seen at WEFTEC that always attend the American Water Works meeting. And now they're picking up on, and these are not small investments. I mean, these are, 6 figures to show up at this meeting, and the kind of booths that they have, it's a lot of money. And so they're saying that it's worthwhile to cross-pollinate the two businesses, because the wastewater is generally the source of the PFAS that in most cases, not in ours, but in cases like we did a big job in Indianapolis. And basically Indianapolis takes its water on the north side of town and discharges on the south side of town. So it just short circuits the river right through the town in essence. And so if you have PFAS generated in the town, you discharge them. If you don't, you get them in the inlet, they come right through. So you've got this problem of, which I would say affects maybe half of the water utilities in the United States, something like that. The ones that use surface water anyway are all subject to this problem. So that was something I'd never, like I said, never seen before. These large water vendors showing up at the WEFTEC meeting. And like I say, there's a lot of shaking out that's coming on. The AI side of it, I think it's interesting. I think if you look at Google, the searches look to me to be similar to what they were. They're different, but similar. And indeed, the algorithms were a form of AI, even though maybe they didn't want to call it that. You know, if you happen to see Emily Blunt's response to that AI actress, it was quite interesting, you know, and I assume the unions will be all over this one. You know, that it's the same kind of thing, right? That here's something saying we can give you another person with no cost, basically. I don't know if you've been driving in San Francisco or not, but the Waymo cars are all over the place now. I think I mentioned the one that had the picture of the dog on the side, and only a dog was in the car. It wasn't driving, fortunately. But you know, they're everywhere now. And I even saw they have a little sign on the roof that has initials, and not clear what the initials mean. I don't know where you find out what they are.
For you, that's your name. If you get a Waymo, they'll put you up there so you know it's
Oh,
yours.
That's
Yeah.
somebody, he's waiting for somebody,
Hmm.
huh? Because one of them was like stuck on Lombard, and it was like unclear what he was doing. You know, he was kind of stuck out in traffic, and I couldn't tell if he'd broken down. He had 4 light flashers going on. So anyway, there's a lot of room in our business, especially for the more tedious things. You know, even large cities like Sao Paulo, Brazil, and we too do this. We actually still depend on communication to do something like watching reservoir levels and taking an action, you know, so that's what these guys do all night long. You know, the machine's watching it too, but it comes to a person making the decision. And so that's that integration that's coming. How fast it will come, I don't know. You know, we're surely not an industry known for being in front of curves like this. But it's going to be interesting the next few years. And I was so glad to see you there, as I said to you, because it shows your interest in the business. And the next AWWA meeting is in Washington, D.C. in June, and the next WEFTEC is in New Orleans in October. They've been doing something funny with WEFTEC. They go back and forth between Chicago and New Orleans, which is kind of interesting. They're kind of
Yeah.
mid,
Maybe the only place is big enough to.
not Vegas can do it.
Oh,
You know,
Vegas.
there's plenty of other ones. LA can do it, you know. No, it's a plan. It's to stay centralized in the central part of the country rather than being on one coast or the other coast. They're locking into that central part, which is an interesting approach. The New Orleans one is a lot more fun than the Chicago one, just FYI. Okay, that's it.
Well, thank you both for the detailed update and congratulations on your position on the board. It's nice to have representation, so glad to see that. I just have 2 quick announcements. One's a thank you to staff, both Paul Sellier and Lucy Croy. We had the opportunity to go and present Novato City Council on the ARC project to get them update on what was going on. And we got to hear some of their concerns and take it back, but Lucy did a great job, so thank you for that, Paul. And then on that Saturday following on the 27th, I stopped by McNear's and sorry, this is going back and forth between McGinnis and McNear's for the One TAM Volunteer Day. And it was really good to see a couple hundred people out there having a good time, enjoying it. Some from the audience made the trip, but again, hats off to Suzanne and then Carl for putting on a great day out there. It was really good to see representation for that. So that was it.
Quick comment.
Yes, please.
Ranjiv, I appreciate both of you guys going there, Larry. I'd like to second the idea of bringing an AI visibility into our board meetings. I think it's extremely important, not just from a global perspective on how these tools can be helpful from
Maybe
a
get rid of
predictive
us.
perspective for us, but also, you know, we have very unique challenges, and so you're not going to be able to read about them. So we have very unique ideas that we can deploy some of these tools. That'll be really, really helpful. So thank you for doing that. And congratulations. That's really wonderful.
Thanks. Thanks, Jeff.
Following up, next item, committee reports from board members. Director Smith.
Sorry. On September 25th, we had the Finance and Administration meeting. I think it was actually a full board, not just a committee meeting. And we reviewed the revenues and expenditures for 25 and 26 for the early part of the year, preliminary audit findings, which were wonderfully not very exciting and supportive. And then our fiscal year 24 and 25 reserve funds, which we discussed how to potentially redeploy some of the capital reserves that we have. The public can see that on our video on our website. Thanks.
Great. Director Kush.
Yes, our last Watershed Committee and Special Board meeting was held on September 18th. The meeting was dedicated to the process for updating our 2005 Roads and Trails Management Plan, or RTMP, and staff covered three main points. They discussed the purpose and the goals of the RTMP. They summarized work and activities that the district has performed under the RTMP. And finally, they explained the links between our recently completed Watershed Recreation Management Feasibility Study and the RTMP, and identified opportunities for updating the RTMP to benefit all watershed users. All stakeholders are now invited to participate in a community open house and workshop to provide inputs to the RTMP updates. The open house and workshop is scheduled for November 9th and 10th. We will review the RTMP update process and results during future Watershed Committee meetings. Our next committee meeting is scheduled for December 18th. For anyone that wants to review the current RTMP, please find it on the district website. It's morainwater.org/watershed rec plan, and it's under related documents and resources. Finally, everyone can access the staff reports and a video recording of our September 18th meeting on the district website.
Thank you. Director Russell.
Can you confirm it's the 9th and Sunday? Is that right?
For the next watershed meeting?
No,
18th.
it's this December 18th, but our workshop is November 9 and 10.
Yeah, 9 is a Sunday. Is
Yeah,
that right?
That's what
Yep.
it said in the staff report. Or
Yeah, I believe that was chosen so the public can
Okay,
participate.
Okay, that's cool. I just want to make sure that that was right. Okay, well, we had a busy month. On the 23rd, we had the planning committee meeting. Staff provided the committee with an overview of the district management and use of ArcGIS, which is the geographical information system that's used basically in lieu of all the hard copy paperwork that the district used to have, like gate books and things like that. Now it's all done on digital. And multiple departments can input the changes they make in the system and give everybody access to it pretty much after review real time. So if they make a change out in the street, it gets put into the system and it's available to everybody for future and real time. The renewal agreement is on tonight's meeting agenda for the board to consider for approval. Staff also provided the committee with an overview of a proposed contract for the Bontempi Water Treatment Plant backwash valves. These are fairly large valves, something like 24-inch in diameter. And this project is integral to the district's water treatment system because obviously if you don't backwash the filters properly, you have a shortened run time, which reduces their output, which reduces the quantity of drinking water we have. So backwashing is a pretty critical factor in the operation of the water treatment plant. This item will be brought to the board at a future meeting to consider approval of the project's construction contract award. It was a six-figure number, substantial. Staff also provided a comprehensive year-end review update, which Phil Sauter talked about, of their efforts to implement the Water Efficiency Master Plan. This review included outcomes of the plan's objectives through water efficiency programs, continued outreach with customers, and collaboration with local and regional partners. I think Phil would agree, that the system is working fairly well to integrate the planning and the water conservation group together, perhaps even better than I anticipated. Staff provided the committee with an overview of the 3-year roads and trails on-call maintenance contract. This item will be brought to the board at a future meeting to consider approval of the contract award. And these reports are available on the district's webpage.
Great, thank you. Before we move on, Paul, just a clarity item. Do you need another support for the request Director Smith made about the high water users? Are you okay?
No, we've got that.
Great. Thank you very much. Move on to item number 8, consent calendar. We have 3 items on the consent calendar. Terry, are there any public comment on the consent items?
Yes, Mr. Larry Menikis. Go ahead, Mr. Menikis, and if you can please speak loud into the mic in your home or office.
Yes, good evening. I'm actually responding to the previous conversation and want to thank the board, the members of the board for such an informative session. I'm out this evening enjoying the nice weather, and I realize how much I learn each time I attend one of these meetings. With that, I want to thank you for that. And I want to add one thing. There's just too many comments to comment broadly on each subject. On AI, fully support investing there. It's going to make a huge difference coming down. And really for everyone, it's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Menikis. I have no further speakers.
Could I please have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved.
Great. First and second. Terry, roll call, please.
Excuse me. Director Larry Russell,
Aye.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Director Kush,
Aye.
and President Sampson.
Yes. Moving on to item number 9, our regular items. And our first one is an update on the Marin Community Foundation Fund Agreement.
Good evening. Haley Legio, Principal Grant and Legislative Analyst, and I believe we are joined remotely by Sean Horn, Director of Watershed Resources. Tonight we have an approval item in front of the board to consider updating our Mount Tamalpais Watershed Fund Agreement with the Marin Community Foundation. I will give a brief overview of the fund itself, talk about some of the projects that the fund has supported in the past, provide an update on the Watershed Facilities Assessment Project, which we're currently advancing with support from the fund, and go over some of the updates or the proposed updates to our fund agreement. Okay, so the Mount Tamalpais Watershed Fund was established in 1996 with the Marin Community Foundation with a geographic focus on the stewardship of the Mount Tamalpais watershed lands. Currently has a balance of about $598,000. The fund was established to provide an opportunity to stakeholders and visitors to the watershed to directly support the stewardship of the watershed. Customers have an option to donate on their bill. We also recently updated our watershed visitor map to include a QR code for donations. And to date, total grants from the fund have been about $618,000, which we'll cover in more detail in the next slide. And lastly, our current fund agreement dates back to 1996 when the fund was established. It has remained unchanged since then. So we're currently in the process of updating our agreement with Marin Community Foundation to align it with their current agreement language. Okay. We wanted to provide a summary of projects that we've done in the past to illustrate what the fund has helped us accomplish. Everything from small restoration projects to larger planning efforts. Most recently, the Mount Tam Watershed Fund has supported the Watershed Facilities Assessment and Azalea Hill Restoration, both of which we'll talk about in the next couple of slides. And then it's also funded the West Peak Conceptual Plan exploration of a Mount Tamalpais Friends Group, smaller restoration projects, and then watershed education and outreach. It's a pretty unique part of our funding strategy in that it offers a lot of funding flexibility for the district to supplement other funding sources for projects that may not fit with or be competitive for traditional grant opportunities. And as you can see from the dates that we have listed here on these projects, we're pretty conservative in how we use this fund. It's not something that we tap frequently. It's really more used as a supplemental source for unique projects that need just a little bit more funding on the watershed. And a great example of that is some of the elements of the Azalea Hill Trail Restoration Project. In this instance, the fund allowed outside organizations like MCBC to donate directly to the district to fund certain elements of this project. In this case, multi-use bridge materials. And then we also, for Azalea Hill, received a donation from the EMIG Trust or a grant, and we're able to use funds from the Mount Tam Watershed Fund as match to construct an additional bridge. And then most recently, the district is using watershed funds to support the Sky Oaks facilities assessment that we're working to advance with the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy. The board approved the use of these funds at the April 1st board meeting, 2025, and then subsequently the conceptual plan project statement with the Parks Conservancy at the August 19th board meeting. Since then, we've conducted an initial site assessment to inform architectural and landscape architectural RFPs that will support initial design. And then upcoming, we have a more in-depth staff needs assessment for November and December. Okay. And then in closing, we have to reiterate an approval item in front of you to update our fund agreement to bring it up to the current standards that Marin Community Foundation is using across all their agreements. Some of those updates include providing current staff roles and contacts, adding a definition of the district and geographic area of focus. It also clarifies the purpose of the fund to be used for the stewardship of Mount Tamalpais watershed lands. And then it also specifies that all disbursements from the fund must be board approved and that any disbursement over $100,000 requires a resolution. In terms of process, staff will continue to bring any projects to the board to get input and approval prior to disbursement. That's all I have. I don't know if Sean has anything to add. Are there any questions? No.
Okay. Great. Haley, thank you very much for the work on this to modernize it and also for the presentation tonight. We'll go ahead and start with board member comments. We'll go on the left this time. Director Russell.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Haley. Haley, do you know kind of what the rate of income or sort of inputs into the fund has been, or is it remaining sort of static, or is it growing?
I'm not sure. I can get back to you with a more detailed report, but I think it's fairly static. I think we have a few monthly donors from customers, but nothing too substantial on a regular basis.
If I could add, Haley,
Please.
I understand there are relatively few donors, but there is one significant donor that regularly provides funding to this fund.
At some point, should we recognize that at some point, or what's?
Sure. If they want to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And then Haley, I just wanted to clarify the approvals for disbursement of funds. You said any disbursement needs to be approved by the board, but disbursements over $100,000 in addition require a board resolution.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's it for now.
Just to follow up real quickly, can we talk process on that in terms of action? So a board approval and a resolution, are we looking at something that's really different?
No, so the process would be quite similar, but the board can take action through a motion or a resolution. The resolution is more formal, and I think the distinction for over the $100,000 is just the resolution would contain more detailed information regarding maybe the usage of the funds and specify that in writing. And then that would be turned over to the Marin Community Foundation. So basically the higher dollar amount, the way I'm seeing this would work, right, you would have a written document that's approved by the board that would go with that. And then for the smaller dollar amounts under the 100,000, it would just be the board item. And then the minutes would reflect the disbursement amount approved by the board and kind of briefly detail what that project is.
Okay, so that no monies can be expended without board approval. It just take a resolution for anything above 100,000.
No, so everything would require board approval. It's just over the 100,000, you would require a
Yeah,
resolution.
no,
Yeah.
I think we're talking the same thing.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Sorry,
It's happened before. It has been to this board before, this
No,
stuff.
no, yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I thought, I didn't pick it up on the first change with this. It just said authority to purchase over 100 or less than 100,000 with the GM. It didn't have the initial component of board approval for that. I just want to make sure that was maintained.
Yeah, I don't recall if there's been one over 100,000. That doesn't stick in my mind, but I know the process has happened here before.
Well, I think currently the site assessment is north of that, I believe.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
But okay, thank you for that. Sorry.
yeah, just, I don't want to be too nitpicky on this, Jared, but is there any reason we just wouldn't have the same process for any amount?
That's completely up to the board's discretion. So we could say everything would be approved by the board and everything would be adopted via resolution. That's completely in the board's discretion.
That, I don't know, it just seems a little cleaner to me to have the same documentation for any disbursement. Unless there's a big argument in terms of efficiency, if it slows things down. But
I mean, from my perspective, preparing a resolution is not a big task. And also there are relatively limited number of disbursements.
right.
So,
How many might that be?
the resolutions, well, on the previous slide that Haley showed, I mean, this was started in 1996. We're talking about maybe 10, I think she had listed. So it's not a large lift. If that's the board's preference, we could change it to reflect that everything would be approved by the board and the resolution would be adopted. So
I would prefer that, if there's a second to that.
Thank you for the presentation. Totally appreciate it. It sounds like we need a little bit more structure around this. Not a lot, but one idea might be, as I've done with my own foundation, I know Marin Community Foundation is a fantastic organization, that you have certain amount of proceeds or funds that are distributed every year. So you have a minimum. So you don't want the money just hanging there. You want it's there to be used. So you can say 5% or some basic amount of money, which in this case would be $25,000 or $30,000. And maybe we have some minimum where you don't need to come to us for approval. And then that sounds like 100 is a lot, but maybe have the staff consider annual distributions or how to approve using the funds appropriately. And then maybe, Adrian, we did talk about using QR codes in the watershed to help people donate to help fix the trails and make them better. What a great opportunity to use this source of funds and this asset group to advertise and promote what we're doing to the public. And maybe we can make this an opportunity beyond rates to help support the watershed. So sounds like we can go both ways, both in the marketing and the distribution, to potentially use it better. I'm not trying to create more work, but it sounds like a good opportunity for us.
So I don't know, Haley, is there an urgency to this item?
No, there's not.
I'm good with your changes, and if you want us to approve that, I'm fine with that. But this is more of a structural look
Okay,
at how
so-
we can go forward
so-
from a policy perspective.
Got it. Good. So I'm hearing, President Sampson, are you okay with the language in the agreement update as it stands? Or are we suggesting the board modify the motion, and that is to include a resolution on all expenditures?
Yeah, so the latter is where I would go. So adopt a resolution or approve this with a resolution for any funds to be authorized by the board of directors via resolution. And then I think it might be a good opportunity at Watershed to consider a presentation on possible uses like you were talking about, so we can actually have a little more time to chat about it and talk it out. Great.
So just one of, Jed, your comment on, sort of ensuring that we're actively using the funds with some level of minimum disbursement makes a lot of sense. Would it be reasonable to consider, say, a goal for, annual revenues to the fund, that, like a fundraising goal for that? Implementing that is not easy, obviously. Maybe it's just a soft.
I mean, this
goal.
is,
It's easy.
in essence, is
Make it happen,
if you
isn't
see it as a foundation, if you see it as a source of funds for us, then you look at fundraising around it. You look at the increase in the value of it through investments, which is what Marin Community Foundation does, and then you look
So-
at how to distribute it. So you want to look at all three of that, and then have some sort of formal approval on how these are going to be used, which it sounds like is already defined.
Right. So those additional items related to the fund are probably independent right now of this.
I think so.
And I think there's a lot of potential coming forward with what we're going to talk about. Two quick questions, Haley. One, can donors specify where they'd like their funds spent?
They can. That happened in the instance with MCBC donating to Azalea Hill. They specified funds being spent on materials for that multi-use bridge.
Okay, and that's part of this agreement would codify that so that they continue to have that same capability, or is it more of an ask?
I don't know that it's been formalized in that way.
I think it's what MCF does, right? So in essence,
that
people
up there.
contribute through Marin Community Foundation for specific purposes. And this is a repository for it, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then the second one is the facilities assessment at Sky Oaks. What's this initial scope looking at in terms of area? Is it just the ranger station right now and some residences, or how big is the scope we're looking at?
So the initial assessment we did, we looked at staff facilities, we looked at housing, and we looked at opportunities for outdoor education or day use areas. And the Parks Conservancy is taking a look at several different places that we visited on the watershed, and they're going to come back to us with a first draft of what that scope looks like and how it's split up between those three broader categories.
Great, that's really good news. Thank you for that update. And then the $1 million question is, when do we get to see what you guys are working on? Get a first blush.
I think our timeline right now with them is about a year from now to have deliverables in hand.
Great.
Yeah.
Appreciate the effort on it. Thank you. Terry, do we have any public comment on this?
I got a
Oh,
comment.
sorry.
My recollection is the number's been about the same since we set it up. There was a fund that was about 250,000 that was left over, unused. I think basically it just accumulated over the years, and it was blended into this effort maybe 8 years ago, something like that. It had partly to do with the one TAM thing, as I recall. And I think rather than putting a contingency on it tonight, it's better to let Jared have a shot at it and think about it in terms of what that agreement might look like, as opposed to saying, we want to approve it with something that changes it. Let's let him come back to us with the changes, if any, and just stick with what we need to approve tonight rather than trying to reach out at this point, I think.
Would you be okay with the one change to resolution for all approvals as the one change?
Maybe. I'm a little concerned about that just because of I think the volume may be a little higher than we think it is. But that's just my recollection.
Yeah, I think the resolutions will be fine. It's they're generally one pagers and not that complex for us to pull together, as Jared was indicating.
Yeah. Okay, whatever.
Okay. Any other board comments? Great. Terry, public comment.
There are none.
Okay, great. So I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt or approve the recommendation with the caveat of any expenditures would go approval through the board via resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Terry, roll call, please.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Vice President Smith,
Aye.
Director Kush,
Aye.
President Sampson.
Yes. Thank you, Haley. Moving on to item 9B, purchase of SCADA replacement equipment.
That's the magic one, Darren.
Trade.
There it goes.
Thank you.
Just takes the touch.
Good evening, directors. I'm Darren Machado, the district's operations director, and this is Jeff Benson, our control systems administrator. The district uses a supervisory control and data acquisition system, SCADA, to remotely monitor and operate our water system. The SCADA system equipment needs to be maintained and eventually replaced to maintain functionality, efficiency, and availability. Jeff is going to talk about our SCADA system and the specific equipment in this item recommended for replacement.
Thank you. What is SCADA? SCADA, or Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, is a system used to monitor and control water processes remotely. It gathers real-time data from sensors and equipment such as flow meters, pressures, transducers, tank levels, and chemical analyzers, to name a few. This data is then sent to a central system, allowing operators to analyze and control the processes through a user interface. SCADA improves efficiency, safety, reliability, and automating operations and providing actionable insights. Why we're upgrading the PLC at San Geronimo Treatment Plant. We are updating our treatment plant PLC from a legacy Quantum system to the modern M580 platform to enhance reliability, performance, and future scalability. The Quantum PLC has become obsolete with limited vendor support and replacement parts, making maintenance difficult and costly. The M580 offers faster processing, improved cybersecurity, seamless integration, and modern SCADA systems, and built-in Ethernet capabilities for better communications and diagnostics. Upgrading ensures long-term system support, aligns with current industrial standards, and provides a solid foundation for future automation and digital transformation initiatives at the plant. We currently have completed phase 1, updating the Quantum PLC program to the new X80 logic and deploying the new 580 processor. In closing, the staff recommends the board of directors authorize the general manager to execute a purchase order in the amount of $151,250.95 for the purchase of a PLC input-output replacement for the gray bar, from Gray Bar to replace the obsolete equipment at San Geronimo Treatment Plant.
We can take any questions.
Okay, great. Darren, Jeff, thank you very much for that update.
Yep, that's within our budget already, right?
Yeah.
Yep, all good. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a few questions. That was the first test, by the way, to see if you could turn on the, see, you still can't turn it on. That does give me a pause for concern. But with that said, what is the old name? I see Schneider makes this now. What was it called before?
Monicon.
Monicon, okay.
Yes, sir.
And it seems that you might be the perfect person to start this AI side of things. And SCADA, in a sense, is doing some AI type stuff. So it's got potential there, I think, to start thinking about that. And maybe you already have.
Yes, sir, we have.
And could you expound a little bit?
AI is being deployed in a lot of the new M580 processors, especially for learning on, when to fill a tank, when to let a tank drain down, reservoir limits, things like that. Alarm limits, kind of, if you have a main break and you start seeing an excessive flow at a site that you normally wouldn't, it might catch that before an alarm limit or an operator might catch it that's focusing on something else or taking calls in the middle of the night. So it just speeds up the process. AI isn't there yet. Probably another 5-10 years to help us write programs, help us adapt those programs. I've experimented with a lot of it, and right now it's just not there.
Who's leading the charge in the industry side?
There's a few different industry leaders. Rockwell is one. Schneider Electric is another. Those are two big ones.
Yeah, it surprises me. I ran into Rockwell the other day, and in a place I didn't expect to see them, in a HMI on a pH control system or an RO running system or something like that. And I was a little surprised because the vendor, when I questioned them about it, they didn't know anything about Rockwell. It just popped up on a fatal error popped up on the HMI, and they had never seen it before, and neither had we. So we're trying to track it down. But it was kind of interesting that Rockwell was behind it.
You're more than welcome to come over and we can chat all day long. We kind of geek out on
it. Well, you're probably a little over my head, but sure.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Darren. As you heard, I was at WEFTech and I noted that there were multiple vendors now advertising cloud-based SCADA. And, I was asking them about the benefits of this. And so the first, the one that they really emphasize is you're no longer relying on internal networks to move the information around. It goes from the system, maybe it's the PLC, up to the cloud. There are a lot of analytical tools that are available on the cloud, on the servers, and then anyone can, access that from a computer or a phone and benefit from all of the analytics that are provided on the servers. And one of their selling points, they said, was that these are much more secure now because internal networks tend to be areas for access, but getting into computer systems, and the cloud-based, all of this is being managed by Amazon Web Services and Microsoft and others that are you're not going to get much better than that in terms of security. So I'm not saying that we should reconsider what you're doing, but I'm just curious on your thoughts about whether at some point cloud-based SCADA is going to become more prevalent, and if there's a role for those types of systems in our district.
As of right now, I prefer not to. There's a lot of bad actors out there. There's a lot of security risks. Companies are constantly being attacked on a daily basis. Right now, we're on an island. We're not connected to anything. We control it. We have full control. In order for somebody to attack us, they would have to basically get past, multiple people, security, cipher locks, things like that, badge access, and then get directly access to the server.
So it's interesting, Jeff. Your argument for not using it is actually their argument for using it.
I've been on both sides.
Right.
I've been at places where, we had operators with iPads and they would go home at night and they would have the iPads. To me, that is a higher security risk than somebody being local, sitting at a station behind a locked door.
That's reasonable. Great. Just, it was getting a lot of attention there. So just curious about your thoughts. Yeah. Thanks. No other questions.
A comment about that. We have a local company called XIO here in Marin that does that. And we had quite a long discussion about 2-3 years ago. I don't know if you were involved in that discussion or not. XIO was pushing real hard on one of the board members to be included. And the decision came from your group. No, we weren't going to go that way. And I happen to we run a system that XIO is involved in. And it has no HMIs in a remote system. And they said, well, just look it up on your phone. Well, there's no phone. There's no internet service, no phone at this location. It's like, well, how are you supposed to do that? An HMI is a computer screen, right? Human machine interface. And without that, it's basically useless from my experience, especially at 3 a.m. when, they're monitoring it, sorta. Our guy is there and trying to figure out what's wrong. And they're trying to figure out a little bit of help from their side. And frankly, what we did was disconnected it.
So, sir, we just ran into a problem at Tokoloma. We lost AT&T comms. They took cell towers down this week. So they're not estimated to get back up until the end of the week. We were able to put it in local and get the treatment plant back up.
Yep.
From the HMI.
And it'll come.
Yeah.
Obviously it'll come. It's not there yet.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely.
It's always good to have a plan B. Always good. I just want to just reinforce the importance of continuing to upgrade our infrastructure. So thank you for bringing this forward. Thank you for making these changes. Thank you for replacing the obsolete stuff and doing it in a responsible way as we move forward. So thank you. Terry, any public comment on this item?
Bill Sauter.
I just wanted to jump in with an experience that we had with the SCADA system back when we were discussing the need for a 10 million gallon tank on White Hill. And I remember going out to the operations center, which was really quite impressive with these big plasma screens on the wall and people around looking at them. And we had asked the consultant if there was a way that we could see the model that they used for determining the amount of storage that was needed. And we got the biggest Excel spreadsheet I've ever seen, but you could plug in variables and figure out what was going on. And one thing we figured out is that by letting the tanks go up and down, you could actually reduce the need for storage. And what the process was at the time out in the operations center was to keep all the tanks at 70% all the time. I'm sure that's changed by now, but we found out, they said, well, we can't make them go up and down. We can't change it more frequently than every 8 hours because then you run into other problems with filters or whatever. But, and then eventually we really geeked out and we looked at the RFP that the SCADA provider had come in with. And there was an actual advantage listed in the RFP that you can reduce your need for storage and other, infrastructure. So I guess what I'm going to suggest is if you do buy this new software, upgrade the system to take advantage of the vendor's suggestions on maybe come in and look at the system and see if there are any ways that their product could become even more useful. Yeah.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
Terry, first and a second. Roll call, please.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Vice President Smith,
Aye.
Director Kush,
Aye.
President Sampson.
Yes, moving on to item number 9C, our capital program update.
That way I don't have to deal with it.
Good evening.
Good evening, Alex Nye, Engineering Director. I got this item today and I have a PowerPoint. You can. All right, there we go. All right, good evening, Alex Nye, Engineering Director. I'm be giving an update today on the capital improvement program for the first quarter of fiscal year 26. So we'll be going over, where we are with a snapshot of the first quarter of this fiscal year, as long as getting into the next 2-year work plan in the CIP, focusing on the larger projects that we're going to be targeting, as well as a discussion of current projects underway and summarizing towards the end of the presentation. So on to the fiscal 26 expenditures. So we've seen this slide a couple of times before. This is updated. So it's a snapshot as of September 26, towards the end of the first quarter of the fiscal year. The adopted budget for fiscal year 26 was right around $67.2 million. And the adjusted 26 budget, which is including the carry forward for this year, is just shy of $80 million. So that's the carry forward budget. Also, it's very challenging for staff to really forecast exactly how much money you're going to use every fiscal year. So it doesn't completely always get utilized, and that's okay. The work still continues, and it's important to carry that budget forward so we can continue working on the projects and getting them done. So as you can see in the fourth column with the actual expenditures, we're right around $28 million with a remaining budget of just shy of $52 million, which represents a 65% remaining budget. So for the first quarter of the fiscal year, 75% is where you would want to be. So we're about 10% ahead of schedule, which is good. It's a good place to be. But you may be seeing, the different categories in here and looking, well, you still got a 94% down here on your system improvements. And that component of that is the ERP and other projects that we're going to get into the pre-design planning phase, which will start getting into that budget once we execute contracts. So overall, the CIP for the first quarter of this fiscal year is on track and tracking very well.
Alex, the number you have right there that's spent already, is that including encumbered funds from last fiscal, or are those considered unspent funds?
Those are unspent funds.
Right.
Yeah, this is the fourth column, correct?
Yep. And
Yeah.
yes, and were you able to tag what project was carried over from last year, or is it just a multitude of them?
No, well, the couple of big ones, Castagna being one, which I have a slide coming up here, which we were going to advertise last year, and we did some, reconfiguration and trimming down of the project. The ERP, those are the bigger high dollar projects that did carry forward. So they represent a good bulk of that project, of the money that was carried forward to this fiscal year. So the larger capital projects over the next 2-year budget cycle include our atmospheric river project, which is currently underway. We'll be looking at the San Geronimo clarifiers next year, in the next fiscal year. Our Gibson Tanks project, formerly known as Pine Mountain Tanks, which is a multi-year, 4-year project that we're currently working on, as well as AMI and the ERP. And with all the capital work we're doing, we're always being considerate of how we prioritize a project, such as the pump stations have multiple issues that could be addressed with fire hardening, replacing old, antiquated, obsolete equipment, while also considering site safety improvements. And also, when we're looking at tanks, we're removing the remainder of the redwood tanks that we have. And I do have a slide on that in the upcoming presentation as well. So kind of going on to what some of the select larger visible projects are underway. First being the Glenwood Pipeline Replacement Project, which is a component of the Fire Flow Improvement Program. This is a project happening out in San Rafael, which is going to replace about 6,500 feet of pipe. And we're looking to be complete with that project here at the beginning of next year. And the next two projects, the canal and the Marin City Phase 2 PRP, are grant-funded projects through the IRWIM grant funding program, that are both targeted to replace old cast iron and asbestos cement pipe, both in the communities or in the canal area in San Rafael and Marin City. And for the canal, that project's currently underway, and we're looking to complete that project at the beginning of next year. For Marin City Phase 2, we just opened bids today. We'll be coming back with an item later this month for award of a contract, and that project is estimated to be completed in July of 26. So storage tank projects and construction are our Gibson Tanks projects. So this is the first year of a 4-year contract to replace the Pine Mountain Tunnel. So as you can see in this picture right now, we have the excavation of the tank foundation. It will be including the system piping, some drainage improvements, and that's what we'll be looking to focus on this year. And the next year, we'll get into the real construction on the actual tanks themselves. So this project is moving along as well. 70 feet at the tallest point, about 520 feet long. It's a massive wall. And other treatment plant projects that are currently underway in construction include the San Geronimo roof project. This will replace a 21-year-old leaking roof with a new Class A fire-rated roof that also incorporates structural modifications for solar in the future. And as you can see here, the picture on the left is what the roof used to look like. The center and the picture on the right are actually what the roof is being replaced with right now. And it's looking to wrap that project up here at the end of this month.
Alex, I think we're also looking at the clear water tanks as options for solar panels.
Yes. We're actually going to be doing the structural condition assessment starting next week. So we're going to actually physically go inside the tank and look at that. And the engineers will be looking at, what it looks like, what the roof looks like, to determine how much weight we can put additionally on that roof.
And then at some point, we have to make a decision about whether or not to go forward with solar panels at these possible sites.
That's something that could be definitely for a future discussion. It did make sense in our preliminary analysis, since it would offset about 10% of the energy use at the treatment plants, and it's local right there. We can make use of it. So it does make sense at this treatment plant to really think about and consider doing solar. But we still got to make sure that we can put the solar on the clear wells.
Right.
So now, kind of switching from projects in construction to projects in design, our favorite project here, Tokoloma Pump Station, it's ongoing. We're making good progress on that to replace the pump and motors and the antiquated equipment in there, as well as fire hardening improvements. We'll be looking to wrap up the project design for that and bringing it to advertise early next year. And Castagna Pump Station, as I kind of touched on briefly, staff did come back at the planning back in April, talked about when we were at the point when we were looking to advertise the entire reconstruction of the pump station. We looked at a more slimmed down version where we replaced just one of the pumps that was off balance. It's got some issues for operation standpoint, as well as including the surge tank at the Ignacio pump station at a reduced cost. So that had a little bit of redesign work. That's been completed. We're looking to advertise that project later this month. And that'll still provide us, system reliability at the Castaño pump station while giving us that flexibility for future expansion with other conveyance projects. And additional projects right now, staff have been working on the Suluhuli pump station electrification and with a consultant for the design of that pump station. Currently at this pump station, we have two 800 horsepower pumps that are powered by a 2 megawatt generator, which is like a big container you see on the back of a semi truck, and we have to import fuel. It's not very effective in how we operate the pump station currently, but what we could do is remove one of the 800 horsepower pumps, which is what we're planning on doing, and replacing it with 4 smaller 200 horsepower pumps with variable frequency drives, so we could actually use the existing PG&E electricity out there and bring them up sequentially one at a time to get us a pumping too, so we can make more use and frequent use of this reservoir. So that's underway right now. Additionally, staff have also issued a request for proposals for treatment plant projects, including the chemical storage tanks at the San Geronimo treatment plant. Old tanks starting to leak a little bit. We need to replace them. And also taking that opportunity to look at both liquid ammonium sulfate at both San Geronimo and Bontempi treatment plants. So those will be wrapped up together for a design with this consultant, and staff will be coming back at the October 21st board meeting for a presentation on that.
Alex, when I think about the pump station electrification at Suluhuli, I always think about also the pipe or conveyance between Suluhuli and Nicasio. And maybe that doesn't fall under capital improvement projects, but is there also movement on that one?
On that, yes, we looked at the cost as we started refining what the scope would be of how we do it, obtaining easements, and the complexities of working with the landowners. So it started increasing in cost, and we're kind of taking a pause on looking at that right now while we kind of think and strategize. Does it make sense to do an entire pipeline, or can we locally look at different improvements by increasing culvert size, hardening certain embankments to prevent some of the groundwater infiltration to better convey the water from Suluhuli into Nicasio?
Yeah, okay, Paul, I think you brought this up at a roadmap update. It's really expensive, right?
Yeah, I think, Alex, it was 28 or something
Yes.
million for a very short run of pipe. And
Yeah.
so it's really forcing us just to look at ways to improve the existing overland flow so that we can dodge that expense, frankly, at this time anyway. We've got so many things, as you can see on our agenda, but a $28 million 3-mile pipeline would chew up a significant amount of our capital budget. So more to come, I think, on this one.
Right.
A question, why would we be concerned about groundwater infiltration?
Not infiltration, but soaking into the groundwater.
Oh, the other way.
Because
Exfiltration.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So other projects also in design. So between the Hind tanks and Scenic Avenue tanks, that represents 3 of the 4 remaining Redwood tanks in the system. So both of these, or all 3 of these tanks, will be looking to actually start construction on this fiscal year to get them out of service. Hind tanks will replace both of the Redwood tanks with 2 200,000 gallon tanks. And we're looking to get the project design completed and advertised in January of this year. Scenic Avenue tanks is a 20,000 gallon tank, a lot smaller. We're looking to get that completed and advertised in December of this year. So more to come. And as with everything, unplanned projects do happen. Our Fairfax Manor pump station, we're all aware, is an unfortunate PG&E paving accident back in 24. Design has been completed, and right now staff is currently working with the town of Fairfax on an easement so we could proceed with that project. And another example would be the Park Road pipeline replacement project, also in Fairfax, in which the district was informed by Fairfax that they were doing a storm drainage improvement that had conflicts with our pipeline, causing us to kind of pivot and remove that old cast iron pipe, which is not a bad idea since they were going to be repaving the entire street and we didn't want to have leak-prone pipe underneath a new road. So kind of to wrap things up here, under the first quarter of this fiscal year 26 CIP, we're on track moving forward in a positive way, which is good. Budgets for projects such as the Castagna Pump Station, grant-funded projects like the Marin City and the ERP will continue to carry forward. And also kind of just throwing it out there, as we get into the Tocolomo Pump Station and Castagna, there are long lead time items on that equipment that do span about 12 months. So those projects most likely will be carried forward into the future, just to give everyone a little bit of forewarning on that. But it's necessary as we continue with the replacement of those two pump stations. And staff will continue to keep the board informed if there's any reprioritization of any of the work we're doing. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Alex, thank you very much for the update. You guys have a lot going on.
Just a little.
In a good way. In a good way, minus the unplanned ones, I think.
Yeah.
Great. Dr. Russell, any comments? Dr. Kush.
Thank you, Alex. Always good to get these updates.
Good.
Well,
All
good. A lot of these are out in the middle of nowhere. And so I appreciate the fact that they're highlighted on the website. Do we have signage yet up at the Gibson tanks?
We
We do have signage, not with the new name yet,
Right.
though, but that is on our radar.
Okay, but it does have what the project's for and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Great. It's
Correct.
such a high, that's the one place where people are always going by. So thank you for that. Okay, great. Terry, any public comment on this item?
There are none.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for the update, Alex.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, future board and committee meetings.
Yes, so Tuesday, October 21st, we'll have our next regular board meeting with the closed session at the beginning. Then also that week, we'll have our Finance and Administration Committee meeting. And the following week, we'll have our Planning Committee meeting / special meeting, the Board of Directors. Also this month is, I believe this Friday is the North Bay Watershed Association meeting. And next week is the Tomales Bay Foundation meeting. Then the first Friday, I believe, or Friday, November 7th, we'll have two meetings, not us, but external meetings. They are the Lagunitas Creek TAC meeting and the North Bay Watershed Association meeting.
Great. Thank you with that. We'll go ahead and adjourn. Is it